Okay, good evening. So this is discussion board. It took me a while to upload and to make, but anyway, I don't know what happened today, and I've been thinking a lot about the discussion board topic. So anyway, so this is a discussion board topic, okay? There's always a story, right, with me. So anyway, so here it is, okay? Where I live, there is this homeless person, okay? And he's really young. I think he might be, I don't know, 26, and usually homeless look really, really old, okay? So, he can't be more than 29, all right? And I'm thinking that back some time, like probably 5 years ago, I saw this really young guy outside of Walgreens near my house, okay? And he just looks so young to me, and it's because it's a long story. So he looks so young to me, and I should have felt that he, had a disability, okay? Because when I was doing my graduate studies, okay, because I have a master's in education, so I had to take a course in special education, all right? And my professor in special education was extraordinary. He was brilliant, okay? And that's what your professors and your teachers are. I'm not a professor. I got called out on it one time or whatever, this and that, because I don't chair anything, and now I'm not a PhD. Although you can be a professor without being a PhD. Anyway, so it depends on the structure of the school, all right? It's a long story for those, I have a lot of students that call me professor, and I'm very honored. And it sort of started like a joke, but I'll tell you that's another story. Anyway, so I had somebody that was very upset because I called myself professor one day. Oh yeah, I'm not. But anyway, so long story. So back to this original story, right? So the story is that that I had this amazing, brilliant professor for special education, and I'll never forget, that he mentioned, those people that sit outside, or not sit outside, that ask for for money, the panhandlers, in 104-degree weather. There has to be something wrong with them, and so they can't be okay. They can't be okay mentally or whatever, because nobody can stand there for hours at a time for 104-degree weather. And I really thought about that. And so then I started observing them, right? Because people, it's very interesting when panhandlers, or when people come up to you, you pretend like they're invisible, like you don't see them, okay? And so I started watching them, because it's an absolute truth. And we're teachers, so we watch, people, right? Because we're good readers. Because when you're an educator, you need to see, and there's a lot of signals to see if the student got them or not, or whatever. So at least I'm a really good, like, I can tell, I'm a good observer, okay? And so I started observing, these people that are outside, panhandling, asking for money and everything. And I want to say he's right, okay? For the most part, there's a lot of them that, that have drug addictions and stuff, right? And there's a lot of them that have, like, all of the stuff together. Like, there was one guy one time in the corner, and he was like yelling, like, you all that drink milk and eat cheese, you're gonna be a cow in next lifetime, and the karma and this and that. And actually in Buddha and all the karma and all that, belief, he sort of has a point, okay? So I was very surprised by the enlightenment of this gentleman, and he looked like he was completely like mad, like completely crazy. So it's very interesting. Anyway, so back to my story. So I always feel really bad for them. And there was one particular home. I thought he was homeless, but maybe they have their house. Who knows? I don't know. I went back and forth a lot when I would give them stuff and I didn't, and this and that or whatever, because, you don't want them to use it for drugs or whatever. But then you take away what that is for you. If it's a gift and you want to help someone, then it's a gift and you want to help someone, and that's it. You don't make judgment about what it is that they use the money for. Yes, maybe you're, helping with the addiction, but maybe you're not. So, in your heart, your action and your charity was pure, okay? So whatever it is that they use it for, it doesn't matter, because your intention was pure, okay? And that's all that matters, that your intention be pure, okay? So, and we're no one to judge anybody, you just don't know, right? I mean, and you can become homeless right away, okay? And, I mean, especially like with the pandemic, there's all sorts of people being evicted and stuff. So anyway, so things can happen. You can also go mad right away. There's it's not like there's certain people that do this. I was discussing this with my son the other day. We all basically have characteristics, and we all have the potential of being bad, like really, really bad, or things happening quickly, like being homeless, or or being out on the street or whatever. Okay, so so it's a different perspective. Okay, so this isn't what the story is, but the other guy that I used to pass by, and there was this older gentleman that was African American, and he would like bend down like this. He did it on purpose mostly, but he was kind of sick or whatever, needed money or whatever. I sort of figured out later that he probably had a wife and then lived somewhere, and so that was his job. Okay, which is very interesting, because one day I was seeing this person, this singer, and she was very famous. Who knows who it was? It wasn't Pink, but it was somebody like that. And so she used to be a pantomime in San Francisco. And so she says that they used to yell horrendous things about her, like when you used to yell at a lot of horrendous things to her, not about her. And they would tell her, get a job, and what are you doing, and this and that. And she said what they didn't understand is that was my job, okay? And so that really put things in perspective, because those people show up. Okay, and sometimes they show up better than some of my students that don't. So right. So anyway, but so it gave me I've always been sort of intrigued, I guess. And so this gentleman was there, and then and every time I'd see him, I sort of like give him money and this and that. And it's because it's a long story, I guess, about homeless. One time there was this other old man that was like in the Walmart by Mesa. This was a long time ago, and we were going home one day, and we used to see them all the time because we used to go to Walmart, right? And I used to take my children, and my son would just like ache. His heart would ache every time he'd see him, because it reminded him of his granddad, okay? And so then one day he like got all his money. I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $100 or whatever, or more. I don't know. More, because my son's been really good about saving money. He was saving for a Ferrari when he was like 7. It was really funny. I think he got up to $500. Who knows? But anyway, so he was gonna give all his money away to this old man, and I didn't let him. I'm like, are you crazy? This and that or whatever. And in the end, I've regretted it all my life, because for all sorts of reasons, it wasn't my place. It wasn't my money. Okay, it was my son's. Yes, I wanted him to save up, but in the end, I should just let it happen, and that's what he wanted to do. So anyway, so huge lesson for me. Okay, so back to the old gentleman. So I used to see this. So as a result of that, whenever I want to give, I give money. Okay, and there's this thing about when you help people and you're generous, if you speak it out, then it's sort of not valid, okay? Or when you're expecting thanks, or when you're boasting that you helped this person or that help it, or helping this other person or whatever, you diminish the act of charity, right? And the act of helping, okay? Because it has to come from your heart and your soul. And so these are the things I believe in. This is what I heard, all right? And so, and it's sort of the way I manage my life. So I always gave him money, because after my son's experience, I always felt really guilty, because I always feel guilty about everything, and I shouldn't, because you can't live in guilt. So anyway, so what happened was that I didn't see this gentleman for a while, and I was really worried. Okay, and so then he showed up again, and so then he came in, and we recognized each other, because he always knew that I was going to give him money, so he always sort of approached me. And so so then he came up, and I was really happy to see him, and I'm like, where have you been? I've been so worried. What happened to you? He said, I've been in the hospital. And I said, are you okay? He's like, I'm a little bit better, but whatever. And then that's when he told me it's because my wife was taking care of me and this and that. So I was happy to see that, but in the end, they all have lives, and this gentleman in particular had a wife, and maybe that was his day job, right, to go ask for money, because he was old and probably nobody would hire him, or maybe he was on disability. I have no idea, okay, but that was his day job. And I'm sure, because a lot of people like me gave him money because he was part of our community, okay. So anyway, so fast forward, or no, later, right? This was before that. So I saw this one time. I was in Walgreens near my house, and I saw this really young kid. Like he must have been like early 20s or something. I think it's this one that I'm telling you about. And so he was there outside of Walgreens, and I felt so bad for him, and I wanted to give him something, but I didn't want to give him money. Okay. And so what I did is I went into Walgreens and I bought like milk. It was like early in the morning, so I bought milk, and then I wanted like something, give him. So then I bought another like sandwich, and then I bought orange juice or whatever. And then I came out, and as I was walking by him, I gave it to him, and he opened up the bag and he said, "Oh my God, you gave me milk. Thank you so much." And I was shocked. Okay, I was shocked. Anyway, so fast forward, that was like 10 years ago, or who knows how, 7 or more than 7 or whatever. So where I live currently, there's this young guy that I think it's the same guy that the one I gave milk to in Walgreens, okay? But now he's a little bit older, like 7 or 10 years older, but he's still like 29 maybe, or 30. And so he walks the strip. There's a very important, or very transit, what do you call it, street by my house, and it goes all the way to Mesa. Okay, so it's very transited. So he goes up and down, like where Sam's and Walmart is on Mesa, like all the way to to like further down to the valley. And so he walks that, and he goes in, like there's a Waterwicker, I think, somewhere around there, like in Donovan or whatever. And so he goes, I guess they give some, I guess people give him stuff, okay, to be able to eat and survive. And so we all watch him. I didn't know we all watched him, but we all watch him. Okay. And so then what happened recently was that he you could tell he's homeless. Like, how they have like their hair all, like dirty and made into knots and stuff like that. And then it was freezing the other day, and he was roaming the streets. It was heartbreaking. Okay. And then I don't know what happened, but then his pants were all torn in front. Okay, so he had some pair of Levi's, but all the front like this was all torn, okay, of his Levi's. And he was like that when it was snowing, and it was horrible. Okay. And it just stresses me tremendously. But then when I was going down the street, because this is my neighborhood, right, I saw a pair of pants in like a bus bench. Okay, so you know how they have those benches, and so it's a bench where the bus stops, right? It's a bus stop, and there was a bench, and there was a new pair of pants. Okay, and there was a box on top of it, and it said AJ. Okay, and it had a rock, and that's his route. And so I said, oh my God, because I thought about buying pants for him, but I just got it just got very complicated for me. I was like, I didn't know, shall I stop? Shall I give it to him? Shall I hunt him down? Do you think he's a 29? Is he a 32? Is he a 30? What if they don't fit? I don't think he has a belt. All sorts of stuff went through my head, right? Well, someone bought him a pair of pants. And today I passed by, and so I was talking to my family, and they're like, did you see the pair of pants? I said, yeah. And they're like, it has to be for that guy. I guess his name is AJ, okay? And so what was interesting is that everybody watches him, and in the end, everybody takes care of him some way or another. And today that I passed, the pants weren't there, okay? And so everybody knew that it was for them. And obviously, I'm hoping, because I haven't seen him. I saw him today, but I saw him by the corner of my eye as I had passed him. And so I didn't see if he had the pants, because the pants that I saw were navy blue. And what I think I saw was like, something like washed, like sort of white, like the jean wash or whatever. So I don't know. So I can't wait to see to get to see him, to see if the pants are there. But it sort of also seemed like everybody in the area, okay, because there's a lot of people that sit in the benches, okay, because they use the buses a lot. And so everyone in the area seems like they respected the pants, okay? And so what an amazing, amazing, amazing act of kindness, an act of compassion and charity, okay? And so this is what the discussion board is about today. In all fairness, and I'm just going to throw in Oprah here, okay? In all fairness, Oprah really started doing the acts of kindness, right? And to do acts of kindness. But we went into this middle class type of acts of kindness, where you go to Starbucks and you pay for the person in the back. I mean, that's really not what act of kindness is, okay? And I've gotten paid my coffee, okay? And I've been very grateful, and I've been very surprised. And sometimes I've really needed to get paid. You know what I mean? Because I just needed for an act of kindness to be done for me. So I guess it's not minimizing it in any way, because it always makes you feel good. And then of course, and then you pay the next one and the next one. So it's just a hot mess, okay? Because then it just sort of blocks out or whatever. But that's not really what act of kindnesses are. We could all probably buy our own coffee. The coffee's super expensive. That's not really what an act of kindness is, okay? It's not about paying Starbucks to the guy in the back because he let you in. It's not. I mean, it's nice, right? But that's not really what acts of kindness are. Acts of kindness is looking at that homeless guy that is part of our community, okay? And someone buying pants for him and figuring out more or less what he wears and putting them out there so he can change his pants, because you could see his underwear and he didn't have pants and it was freezing. And we all worry about where he lives and if he eats or what. And we all know that there isn't much that we can help him with, but we can help him that way, feeding him or pants or whatever. It was mind-blowing to me to see that kindness and that compassion that was so very much on display without ever knowing who did it. Okay? And everyone understanding that that was for him, for the homeless kid, because he's young, that walks daily in our area every day. I don't know where he goes and I don't know where he comes, right? And so, and my family told me he has to be living under the bridge, and it's probably true, okay? Because that's sort of where I saw him today. So this discussion board is about who has done an act of kindness to you that has moved you to your very core, and that you were so extraordinarily grateful because you really needed it at all sorts of levels. Maybe financially, materially, spiritually, just as hope, right? As just hope that you just needed someone to be kind, okay? And so I will start with me. So when I divorced, right? It's a long story. So I divorced my first husband. I've never been married again, but I've been in a very long committed relationship the second time around. I didn't want to marry the second time around. Whatever. So anyway, but my first husband kept the house, and it was really nasty divorce, and it was really, really bad. And you are who you are always, right? And so when through the divorce, I always was in loving kindness, okay? And so I didn't fight for anything, and he kept the house. He thought he had sort of screwed me over. He used to mock me that, in bars with his buddies, that he had screwed his wife over, this and that or whatever. Peace and love, dude, peace and love, right? And so, in the end, I turned out to have a better house than he did, even though I struggled tremendously. So anyway, so know that your time will come, and know that you will be helped, and know that you will be better off for it, and know that the universe, God, Buddha, Allah, energy, source, whatever it is that you believe in, will come back around. It doesn't come back around right away, but it does come back around, okay? Because everything that you do, okay, and that's what karma is. Karma is not good or bad. It just is, okay? And there are consequences to actions that you have. And so everything that you do, and there's accidents and there's horrendous things that happen that just, happen, that it's not because you behaved wrong or whatever and this and that. But everything that you do is a vibration, and it's an energy, and it's a sent out to the universe, and that's what gets back, okay? So when I divorced my husband, he kept the house, and I had nothing. Okay, nothing. And so my sister and my brother-in-law, my sister's like my mother, okay? I have my mother, but my sister's been an amazing, amazing sister. I have an amazing family. And that is the only reason that I have been able to get through whatever it is that I've gone through. And let me tell you, I've had a very hard life. People see me and they're very judgmental and they think that it's been a piece of cake. It hasn't. I have worked very hard for everything that I have had, and you all have no idea what I've gone through. And I was homeless because he kept the house, and it was nasty, and I had to leave, and telenovela type, like, soap opera type. Okay, so my sister is like my mother, even though I have my mother, and my mother's been great, and she's a mother, right? So I'll tell you in a minute. So when I went to go live with her, my daughter tells me, this is horrible. You have like two sets of parents, and I did. Okay, so when I divorced, I had to leave the house, and he kicked me out. And this is horrible. I've never mentioned this before because I don't like to bash him or whatever. It is what it is. But anyway, the thing is that he kept the house. So and it was horrendous. Okay, so my sister, who is like a mother to me, and my brother-in-law, who was like a father to me. Okay, he recently passed. He passed about 7 years ago. It was devastating for me. They took me into their house because they knew I had no money, and I was already an assistant principal at that time. I was going to be an assistant principal. I already had my degree, and I was a teacher, but I had no money. Okay, no money. And so they took me into their house, and I lived with them with my children. Okay, so I lived with my sister and her husband, my brother-in-law, and they had his father living there. And then of course they brought me in, and I was living there with my two children, my daughter and my son. Okay, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life, and I just needed to heal so much. And they were so supportive, so kind, and so compassionate. And I stayed there forever. It never occurred to me, because Mexicans are like that. You sort of go back home. It doesn't matter that you're a gazillion years old, right? And so what happened is that, I was like 38 when I divorced, and then I had my two children. And so I just sort of went back home. It never occurred to me to get an apartment, because that's not what you used to do, at least for us. You don't live alone, and you don't, especially a woman or whatever, this and that. That's why I tell you that we have worked very hard for you all to be able to travel with your boyfriends, to live with your boyfriends without being judged and be considered, a whore, because that's what you were considered before. Anyway, so it never occurred to me to get an apartment, but I went and lived with my sister and my brother-in-law, and they were just so amazing, and they never, they were just very kind, very compassionate, and very helpful. And that is my story about the kindness that was done to me, and the loving kindness that that my family reached out. They could have been someone else, you know what I mean? They didn't have to be family, but in this case they were family. So this is the discussion board. What have you experienced from the perspective of receiving, that somebody was so kind to you and so compassionate, and they were in their purest of heart loving kindness to you? And what is it that they shared or they gave you, or what is it that impacted your life so much that you will never forget the kindness? Now let me tell you one thing: you can never pay back the kindness that person gave you. So what you do is you pay it forward. Okay? And so since they helped me tremendously, I try to help as many people as I can, because I have to pay it forward. I mean, what they gave me at the time, more than security or whatever, was love. I mean, I remember I was going through so much, and I worked so hard, and then my ex-husband was so difficult, okay, so difficult, and I was going up the ladder. Like I tell you, everything happens at the same time, and so, I got home one day, because I was in middle school as an assistant principal, so I used to do sports and this and that. I used to get home like at 11 o'clock at night. And I remember getting it home, the kids were there. Thank God that my sister and my brother-in-law were taking care of them. I will forever be grateful to them. I will forever be grateful to them. And I tell my sister all the time. And I came in, and I had just had a really bad day, and I just started bursting into tears. And they're like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, and I was so glad to be there with them, and I was so glad to be comforted by them, because I was having such a hard time. So if you're going through a hard time, you'll get through it, and you will expect kindness and loving kindness and compassion in the places that you least expect it. But you need to be open, and you need to be accepting, and you need to be grateful, because sometimes family helps us, but sometimes it's not family members. Sometimes it's a complete stranger. Okay? So you write down in your discussion board, what is it that the experience that you received, that from coming from someone that was in loving kindness, that just completely changed your life. Namaste. Love and light.